I think the people who founded Congregation B'nai Israel would have been overwhelmed by what we have become. They were peddlers, they were shopkeepers. They couldn't have envisioned, I think, the type of Jewish community in general and the type of synagogue in specific that would still be functioning in Bridgeport. The synagogue's been in Bridgeport for almost 150 years. It's the third oldest congregation from what we've been told in the state of Connecticut. I think it's the oldest congregation in Fairfield County. And it was established by a group of primarily German Jews back in the 1850s. They got together first, interestingly enough, to create a cemetery for the Jews who had kind of come to the Bridgeport area at that particular time. It's interesting that before they even got together to worship together, to study together, they needed to bury their dead together. Then I think after they purchased the cemetery, they decided that they might as well come together as a community. And it's been here since then. It started out as an Orthodox synagogue, as most synagogues in America were at that time. But over the next 40, 50 years, it began to become more of an American synagogue. And then that became a Reform synagogue around the turn of the century.
The structure we had before this was really built for about 500 families, and we're now 850 families. And we'd really outgrown our facility.
We didn't want change for the sake of change. We wanted to do what we needed to do to make it function better for our wonderful congregation. So we put together focus groups, and we met with as many congregants as we could and got as much input as we could. And the next step was we hired an architect that's worked out, I think, really well for us, as evidenced by the building.
We also did some research on the existing facility because it dates back to 1955 and discovered that it was designed by Percival Goodman. Percival Goodman being an architect of the 50s and the 40s and is responsible for creating 50 synagogues throughout the country shortly after World War II, which was a primary influence of synagogue building.
I think the model of from one generation to the next, Lador Vidor is what it's called in Hebrew, is really very ingrained in terms of who we are as a Jewish people. There's a sense that one generation needs to build for another. There's a great rabbinic story about this old man who was out one day planting a tree in hot weather, and somebody comes by and says, why are you planting that tree, a small sapling? And by the time, it's large enough to provide fruit or provide shade for you to enjoy, you're going to be gone. What's the point of your efforts here? And the old man basically said, others have planted trees so that I can enjoy of its fruit and its shade. I'm willing to now plant for future generations.
Some people were excited, some people were a little skeptical that we could make a reality of it. And it really involved a whole educational aspect, explain to people what the importance was for our congregation as a whole. And I think we accomplished that.
I couldn't even imagine that it could be so wonderful. It's beautiful, and Bernie Jacobs really deserves all the credit. He's amazing.
I've worked with contractors, but not in the construction industry. But I felt that somebody had to do it. I had the time, I certainly had the energy, and I had the passion for B'nai Israel.
My grandfather was here in 1958 when this temple was built, and to be able to be part of sort of a rededication of the temple is a tremendous feeling for me and for my family as well.
Somebody said, well, we should have a groundbreaking, and I thought, nobody's going to come. But on a Sunday afternoon in November, an incredible number of people came, and I think they wanted to be here and gather together and stand outside and stick shovels in the ground and say, look, we're really going to do this. And it was wonderful.
Well, synagogues are really in the main made up of people. I mean, a synagogue is much more than a building. But at the same time, the narrative of the people is reflected in the building that you create. So from that vantage point, this idea of a street, when you walk in, you're welcomed to a place where you can spend some time, you can sit, you can connect to other people. And then as you walk down the street a little bit further, you enter into the sacred space, which is really the reflective of what we are primarily about. We're a worshiping community that enjoys coming together for holy day times, for Sabbath times, also to share life passages and places to enjoy the joys and comfort each other in the difficult moments of our lives. So the centerpiece of a sanctuary is really just that, to provide that sanctuary space.
Our architect called it Main Street. He felt that when you walked in, that there should be a main street of activity and everything should flow off of Main Street, such as an office, such as a library, such as a sanctuary. And the culmination of the Main Street was going to be the chapel, so that it creates a focal point, and then all of a sudden you walk into the chapel and wow, it opens up into a really spiritual space.
One of the things we wanted to accomplish as much as we could with this renovation is bringing all the different parts of the building together. And I think the street helps to do that. It connects everything symbolically.
It was an extraordinary evening, a service of not only dedication but rededication. It was December 7th, 2007. Friday night service, and it was also Hanukkah, a night where we commemorate the rededication of our temple. We had an amazing service. We had the mayor of Bridgeport speak. We had some of the people who were instrumental in the building process speak. We had the children's choir, the adult choir, the band. We had a dinner afterwards in which over 400 people participated. It was moving, it was touching, it was exhilarating. It was an evening I don't think any of us will forget for a long time.
You feel comfortable here. It's like a comfy couch. You know when you sit on it, it's going to feel snuggly and warm.
Oh, we definitely had to come and just renew old times.
After all this labor and expense and disarray, we have arrived at our goal almost. And it's wonderful, and I think this congregation deserves it, and long live B'nai Israel.
The earlier generation of Jews knew that they were Jews. They were sort of Jews first in their lives. What the synagogue helped them do is to become Americans, to fit into this great melting pot, this great community that would become America. Our kids today have the American stuff down real well. They know who they are as far as that national component of their lives. What we want to do is make sure that the Jewish component is significant for them too.
What we've been able to do here tonight is it's terrific. It's bringing the whole community together.
And it shows that we're here permanently and we see ourselves going forward and that we will always be here.
People are really using the place. They're doing exactly what we wanted them to do. They're sitting in the lobby, they're congregating, they're talking, they're having a cup of coffee. If we're going to survive, as Jews, there has to be a place for us to meet and to be, and it has to be relevant. And I think this place is a very relevant place.